Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm Jeff Howe, joined by CJ Vogel and the coach Bob Shipley, here to deliver grades from Saturday's 38-7 win for Texas over San Jose State. This edition of On Texas Football brought to you by Allegiant Digital Marketing. We'll tell you more about Chad Markham and Allegiant Digital here later in the show. Guys, let's get right into it. Let's start at quarterback. Arch Manning trying to bounce back from his performance against Ohio State on Saturday against San Jose State. Throws for 295 yards, accounts for 5 touchdowns. CJ, start with you. Your grade for Arch Manning.
He gets a C, maybe a C. I'll give him a C. He's at a C. Look, and it's a tough C to give, given that he had 5 total touchdowns, 295 passing yards, and 25 more on the ground. You know, you see the stat sheet and say, okay, he probably did his job pretty well. But too often did we see, again, some errant passes. The interception in the red zone was something that Texas cannot afford to have moving forward at all. I think that was a good learning moment, but a C for me. There were too many times that Texas had opportunities to extend the chains and did not. Too many opportunities later on down the field in which Texas had chances to head big plays, and they did not. One thing I did find optimistic about Arch Manning's performance is, look, his best passing drive of the game was probably the last possession that he was on the field for, in which he found Jordan Washington over the middle. He scrambled again to find Amari Winston. And speaking of scrambling, I thought that was the best aspect of his game. Scrambling to throw was tremendous from Arch Manning today. There were a few drops, so again, the stat sheet doesn't tell the whole story. But when he uses his legs and escapes the pocket with eyes down the field, I think that ultimately is when he's at his best.
Coach Shipley, you agree with CJ on the grade of C for Arch Manning?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I gave Arch a C. I thought it was just a pretty average performance. He looked, he looked like an average FBS quarterback today. I mean, he had a couple of moments, but he'll continue to progress. I did like the plays he made with his feet and extending plays and finding receivers, but he's still making throws that should be closer to the target, in my opinion. And I just think he really needs to find himself for our offense to really find themselves and develop into the offense that we haven't defined yet who we are as an offense. And today was a little more difficult, not having one of your starting wide receivers in the game. And but anyway, it's progress. I saw progress in Arch this week from last week, but he's got a long way to go. There's this not going to be a quick fix. He's going to have to play himself and study himself into being the quarterback that he needs to be for us this season.
No, I agree, Coach. That could be said for the offense as a whole right now. Let's go to running back. Texas without Trey Wisner on Saturday, held out with a leg injury. CJ Baxter's your leading rusher, 64 yards on 13 carries. CJ, what's your grade for the running back group in this one?
Yeah, a bit of a rough day for the running game, and of course the running game is only going to be as successful or not dependent upon the guys up front. So look, it's probably a C minus for me. Texas didn't get the running backs involved really at all in the passing game either to give them a boost when that running game wasn't there. But I'm looking at it. You did get loose, right? Christian Clark had a 13-yard run. Jarrett Gibson had a 14-yard run. You got 18 from CJ Baxter, but for the most part, you were bottled up. I thought those guys did a fine job of trying to make guys miss and running through contact. That's encouraging, but ultimately there just wasn't a lot of running room for them, and that's no fault of their own, but not a lot to show for it early on.
No, Arch Manning, as a matter of fact, your longest run from scrimmage in the game of 20 yards. Coach Shipley, Sark said after the game, said, we ran it okay. I think that's probably a good way to sum up the offense, period. But no Trey Wisner, your grade for the running back group, Coach?
Well, my grade for the running backs, I look at it a little different. My grade for the running backs is a B, and the reason I do that is because my grade for the offensive line is not good at all. I felt like, if I'm just going to grade them as a group, I think they did what they were asked to do. I don't know that it was done the way it needed to be done, as, looking back in hindsight, some of the calls and just our lack of, really having a good, consistent drive running the football, especially in the first half. But I thought the running backs did a good job. So, I gave him a B.
Coach, normally I'd go to receivers, wide receivers, and tight ends, but I'm gonna go to you for O-line right now. What is that grade for the offensive line, and your thoughts on the way that group played? Felt like a step back from what we saw last week.
Yeah, I gave him a D. I think Cole Hudson struggled. There's no doubt. Cole Hudson and Brandon Baker were the two that were glaring, but there were times that our guards got stuffed too, and we just didn't have the holes there that I thought we should have. When we started blocking down and running the guard tackle counter, the counter tray, we had good luck with that, with the backside guard pulling and kicking and the backside tackle leading up. But overall, I thought it was a poor performance. I felt like, especially in the first half, I just felt like either the guys weren't prepared emotionally and mentally, or they overlooked a good San Jose State team. I thought that was a pretty solid team. I thought they had a great game plan. I felt like they got the most out of their kids, their players. But when you're looking at an offense who you expected coming into the season, you weren't sure about the offensive line, but there was enough positivity, especially after that Ohio State game, that we thought they would gel and come together. But they took a big step backwards to me today.
Yeah, that to me, Coach, is the big thing, the step backwards. CJ, what say you about the offensive line?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Coach. D feels like the spot to go. It was a failing grade. It was. And again, you run the ball statistically well, right? You're at 4.8 yards per carry. You normally take that. Longest run, only 18 yards from a running back. However, you didn't have any plays that truly got loose, and a number of other plays that were bottled up at the line of scrimmage. But more glaring than anything for me were the penalties, right? Trevor Gooseby had a holding. DJ Campbell had a holding. That negated a 40-yard gain down the field. Once again, Brandon Baker unable to hold his water on the outside, another false start. And, of course, you have a chop block on the 1-yard line between your right tackle and your center. We talk about red zone issues. Well, it's hard to score in the red zone when you're consistently running into the wall by your own doing and wondering why you can't get through the door, right? So Texas has to figure it out. And that offensive line, again, I thought it was very encouraging leaving Columbus, saying, maybe this is going to be a strength of this team. Maybe we just see 12 and 13 personnel kind of ride this team through SEC play, and they just ground and pound. Now I'm starting to wonder whether or not that's going to be a viable option. Of course, no Trey Wisner, so maybe things are different with guys hitting the hole differently. But altogether, it was not a great day. One positive there, I did think the pocket was there long enough for Arch Manning at times. And again, when they started to find out that Arch was going to scramble, and look, that's a new concept for a lot of these offensive linemen. I think there's a pretty stern conversation after the DJ Campbell holding to say, hey, your quarterback will move. Keep your hands on the inside. And if guys are trying to disengage, do not hold on, because that will negate a big play that Texas so desperately needed at times on Saturday.
Yeah, let's go to the wide receivers and tight ends. We'll group receivers together for this. Coach, it started out, Parker Livingston, for all the good things he did, he gets the penalty on DeAndre Moore's big play on the first play of the game. Coach, some ups and downs, but it just seemed like that play just really set the tone for this up and down day we're talking about on offense.
Yeah, that was a tough play, but thank goodness for Parker Livingstone. Yep. I mean, that guy made plays. We were struggling. He came up with a big touchdown reception and great run, showed his speed on that as well. But other than that, I didn't see, saw some young freshmen come in and play well, and that's encouraging. But overall, I mean, I graded the tight ends a B. I graded the receivers a C. So I would hate to give the receivers, a B, give them a B minus just because they're meshed in with the tight ends, because I think there was a very stark difference in the way that the receivers played and the way that the tight ends play. And you got to start wondering, we've been so used to having playmakers out there. Who's the playmaker going to be? Who is that going to be? I mean, it doesn't look to me like it's going to be Ryan Wingo, and that's who I thought it was going to be. But I don't know what's there. There's issues. Maybe I don't know. I can't speak to. I have my suspicions, but anyway, it's just somebody's got to take the lead. I think we've got some spots wide open on that receiver unit, and certainly some guys can earn their play over these next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Coach, to your point, Khalil Lockett came in, had a really big fourth down catch late in the game, 2 catches for 22 yards. But yeah, just CJ, just again, I'll let you have the floor for your grade for the receivers. Just a pretty erratic day overall.
Yeah, it was. It certainly was erratic. I'll give the tight ends. I'll split them up like you did, Coach. A- for me on the tight ends, and I'll go with a C- for the wide receivers. If I could grade Parker Livingstone by himself, look, I thought that was an A+ performance. 4 receptions, 5 targets, 2 touchdowns, 128 yards. Sign me up for that all day. And you ask, where's the playmaking coming from? I think it's there with Parker Livingstone. And I know you probably won't see Texas transition to him being used or looked at like a number 1 wide receiver, at least not this early in the season. I think it's worth the glance. I mean, so far through 2 weeks, the only wide receiver that's made any sort of plays on a football in a 50-50 scenario has been Parker Livingstone, and he's done it multiple times. If you're looking for production, throw it 13's weight, because that ball is going to be caught, and it's going to be extended for a play after the catch as well. I wanted to go back to those tight ends, Coach, because, look, I thought that was a great performance. You got all 5 guys on the field. It was great to see Amari Winston back in pads for the first time. I wrote down a play around 10:30 left in the fourth quarter. Nick Townsend, once again, coming on kind of an HB slam in which he just delivered probably the biggest hit of the day. Of course, I don't believe he actually hauled in his first career reception, but we did see Jordan Washington get loose vertically down the field. Amari Winston, another scramble opportunity, as I mentioned, for Arch Manning, 33-yard reception for his first career catch. And Jack Indries, look, just like Livingstone, if you're looking for a playmaker, 88 needs to be looked at a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. No doubt. Guys, we'll go to the offense overall here in just a sec, but right now I want to thank our sponsor for this edition of On Texas Football for our game grades. That's Allegiant Digital Marketing. Did you know that among the top 9 challenges business owners face, the most difficult ones include finding customers, increasing brand awareness, digital advertising, and lead generation? What if I could point you to a local homegrown agency here in Austin that could solve all those problems for your business once and for all? For over 25 years, Allegiant Digital Marketing founder and CEO Chad Markham, a UT grad and instructor of the Digital Marketing Boot Camp here at UT Austin, has helped thousands of businesses overcome these challenges. Take advantage of their Hook 'em Horn special today and save up to $2,500 in advertising. Visit allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball to learn more today. Again, allegiantdigital.com/ontexasfootball to learn more and take advantage of their Hook 'em Horns special. And again, want to thank Chad Markham and Allegiant Digital Marketing for being a sponsor of On Texas Football. Coach, I'll start with you. Grade for the offense overall.
Overall, the offense, I graded a C. You know, too many penalties, too many mistakes, just sloppy. Just a very blah performance from our offense. Certainly not up to the standard of a championship football team. And I hate to say it, we've got a ways to go.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless something now, I think today also showed us that we missed Trey Wisner because he's a great. But overall, I'd have to say we have a long way to go.
CJ, hard to disagree with anything Coach said. Your grade for the offense overall. I've got a feeling it's going to be something similar.
Yeah, I gave it a D. I did. I thought it was a bad day. I thought it was a failing day for the offense. And look, you score 38 points, all of which coming by the offense, but not because of their own doing, right? You look at the touchdown drives. You had a 90-play drive, or 90-yard drive. That was on the 83-yard reception by Parker Livingstone, in which he caught the out and up essentially and took it to the house. You had 63. That's a good drive. 36, 34, and 1. Had Texas not forced turnovers deep on their own possession deep on the own side of the field for San Jose State, do they score 30 points today? My answer is probably not. I mean, what leads me to think that they do? Because they couldn't go 50 yards for a touchdown consistently at all on Saturday. So look, a D. Again, you go 2 for 12 on third downs. Your average distance to go, 9.7 yards. Played behind the chains far too often. You didn't run the ball all too well either. Again, this is a team that allowed 230 yards rushing to Central Michigan a week ago. Why was Texas unable to get a push up front? Why was Texas not able to sustain drives of 50 yards or more? Where are these big questions? Oh, and I haven't even mentioned 2 red zone turnovers. It's a failing day. I don't care about the 38 points. You look at the drive-to-drive consistency and efficiency. It wasn't there. Bad day.
Hard to disagree with that. Guys, let's talk about a little something better, a little more palatable. Let's talk about the defense. Coach, we'll let CJ cool down a little bit. I'll start with you. We're going to group the edge group and the interior D-line together. A couple of penalties, but Coach, when you're facing a run and shoot offense, a lot of pass rush attempts, you're playing a lot of guys. We saw a lot of guys early in this game. Your grade, Coach, for the defensive line overall?
Yeah, I would say I thought the edge played a little better than the defensive line, but I would say probably a C+ for me. If I broke it down, it'd be edges a B, probably D-line a C. But I just felt like there were times that we lost gap integrity. There were times when we had an opportunity, maybe on a blitz or unblocked defender. We're not taking good angles on our quarterback blitzes, and I just felt like it was a very average night for our defensive line. At times, it was a little discouraging to me watching our defensive line. But anyway, I thought our edge kind of made up the difference for them. But overall, not a good performance, just a sloppy performance, I thought, overall by our defensive front.
CJ, it really seemed like PK calling this game was content to defend the pass. A lot of light boxes for Texas today defending the run. Your grade for the Texas defensive line, CJ?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go a different route. I thought it was a pretty solid day, and I know it sounds weird, but the sack adjusted numbers, there was only about 3.7 yards per rush allowed. And again, San Jose State expected to throw the ball a lot, and they did. Texas played with five-man boxes, six-man boxes pretty often. And I know the running lanes were there, but ultimately, look, you didn't get gashed when it comes to the run game all too much. Again, Texas has only allowed one rush this season of 10-plus yards. It's not bad. And what's interesting is I do think the linebackers are playing very well, and that speed was very evident. And so they clean up a lot of those holes and gaps that we see created up front. But the edges, I thought pressure was there at times. Obviously, 42 dropbacks. You're going to get some of those clean rushes at the quarterback. But I thought Murad Watson was really the big story for me today. I noticed him more than I did against Ohio State. He had a sack and a half, a couple tackles for loss. That's a really impressive showing for the Syracuse transfer. Bright spot for me up front. But I do think it also speaks to how important an Alex January is against teams like this. When they spread that offensive line and get a little bit wider splits, you need guys that can clean up two gaps at a time and also have that athleticism to go laterally as well. Texas missed him today.
Yeah, I'm interested to look at snap counts. Didn't feel like we saw as much Cole Brevard this week as we did last week against Ohio State. Coach, CJ mentioned the linebackers. Big day for Ty Anthony Smith. Big day for Anthony Hill. Leonga Lafau gets a batted pass on a fourth down stop. Your grade for the linebackers, Coach?
Yeah, I graded him at an A. Ty Anthony Smith was just that dude was all over the field wreaking havoc everywhere he was. And, of course, Ant Hill was Ant Hill. I mean, he does what he does, and he is who he is. And I thought our secondary played fairly well, but I thought our linebackers graded out higher than any group on defense for me. They seemed consistent.
CJ, I got a feeling you're going to be right there with Coach in terms of high praise for this linebacker group.
Yeah, I loved it. I loved it from, all four that we saw plus the younger cats, right? We got to see Bo Barnes towards the end of the fourth quarter as well. Coach, you mentioned it. We saw the butt kiss level play from Anthony Hill with 2 forced fumbles. We didn't see him much in Columbus, but he made his presence felt on Saturday against San Jose State. On top of that, Leonga had that fourth down play that you mentioned, Jeff, but I want to talk about Trey Moore because I thought Saturday was the first time that we really got to see why Texas bumped him back to that second level. His speed was something that I was a bit shocked by. And I know that he's a good athlete. I didn't know he had the sideline-to-sideline ability kind of similar to that of an Anthony Hill. I thought he was flying around. It was really impressive. And look, Texas is only going to improve at that linebacking spot. That's the best unit on this team at the moment.
Coach, let's go to the secondary. You mentioned that group a minute ago. It seemed like San Jose State, they picked guys who they were picking on. They picked on Grayson Littleton for a little bit and went after Kobe Black. Basically, they stayed away from Malik Muhammad wherever he was at today. What's your grade for the secondary today, Coach?
Well, I gave them a B. I felt like that, given the offense they were playing against, it's very difficult offense to defend. It looked like we were willing to give them the short stuff. We weren't going to let them throw it deep. And that offense reminds me, of the old run and shoot. They weren't necessarily sprinting out, but just gadget plays and just, little wrinkle guys that run angle routes and things like that. Just get guys open, overload a zone, and have one guy that's going to be open. So it's difficult to defend, but overall, I felt good about what they did. I think Grayson Littleton came back and did some nice things back there. I gave him a B.
CJ, what say you?
I want to say B, but I'm kind of teetering on that edge once again. And I say that because, look, they were against a good quarterback. And I thought Walker Eggett played well. But against some of these SEC guys that Texas will face later on, there were plenty of completions vertically down the field that just gashes the Texas defense. And, look, I know Grayson Littleton's in week number 2 as a Longhorn. He played tremendously well against Ohio State. He came back down to earth a little bit this weekend against San Jose State. They picked on him, slot fades, kind of some of those out and up, some wheel routes. They wanted to throw the ball down the sideline with him covering wide receivers. Fortunately, again, errant passes prevented a lot of completions down the sideline. But here's the deal: we talk about big plays and where Texas could get hurt. Texas only allowed 4 plays of 15 plus yards through the air against a team that throws the ball more than any team in the country. Again, talk about efficiency. I think you take that out of 42 pass attempts, longest only going for 21. So they rallied well, they tackled well, and ultimately I thought they covered just well enough for a passing grade, but still plenty of room to improve.
Can I put you down for a B- there, CJ?
Yeah, we'll round it up.
There we go. All right. Always love those good old rounding numbers when they go in your favor. Coach, I'll start with you. Grade for the defense overall. At the end of the day, you look at Texas. They hold San Jose State to 4 for 15 on third down, 3.8 yards per play, under 100 yards rushing. You look at the box score, Coach, it checks a lot of boxes, but you've got the final say, Coach, on the eye test for the grade.
Yeah, I'm going to say a B. I think there's enough bright spots there, and there's enough things that we saw that we certainly bent several times. We didn't break much. But I think overall, again, good effort. Our linebackers are the heartbeat of this defense, followed by our edge players. And we just have some other guys that you're going to have to grow up. We've got to figure out the rotation that we're going to use at the defensive line. What's going to bring us our best chances to stop a certain play, having the right packages in there. And I think we're still trying to feel ourselves through that. But overall, not a great game, but certainly a passing grade, and not stellar, but a solid B to me.
CJ, your final word on the Texas defense.
Well, let's see. I'll start with a B+, Jeff, and let's see if you round me up to an A after I convince myself here. But 7 points allowed. You mentioned 4 of 15 on third downs. You go 0 for 2 on fourth downs. Again, individual plays, playmakers stepping up in those situations. On top of that, look, you create 4 turnovers. Sign me up for that, right? They all came so quickly that the game was never in question. And I know that there were games for Power 4 teams playing, FC lower level G5 teams across the country in which they were pretty tight because their defense couldn't stop opposing offenses. So look, 7 points, I'll never complain. Did they allow some yards? Sure. But that also is the result of getting about 35 guys on the field, many of which who never played a college snap before. But I'm sticking to a B+. End of the day, it does not matter the yards, the efficiency, how teams move the football, but the points. And 7 points is something that I think Texas should be very proud of.
You know what, CJ, you turned in that extra credit right before grades went in, so I'm going to round you up to an A-. And the reason why I want this to be really good, Coach Shipley, as we go to you, I'm anxious to see what you guys have for special teams, because I know what my special teams grade would be for this one, and it would not be flattering. Coach Shipley, you're up first with the special teams. Yeah,
my special teams grade was a D. I felt like our punting was, we all went goo-goo-eyed over, the punts last week against Ohio State in the red zone inside the 10-yard line, and thought, well, We don't have to worry about punting. Well, he got off one good punt today. Other than that, I thought he was, below average. Of course, the, roughing the kicker was huge for us. And, just stupid penalties and lack of being able to flip the field like we should be able to flip the field. Nothing outstanding in the return game. I felt like we should have fair caught a ball. We let bounce close to the goal line. So not a very good showing today, in my opinion.
CJ, I'm already missing the Silas Bolden experience back on punt returns. It was wild. You didn't know what you were going to get, but at least we got something. Just to Coach's point, just not a whole lot going on in special teams today.
You didn't know what you were going to get with Silas Bolden, but you knew you'd get a caught punt, right? And that saved Texas probably 100 yards or so at some point throughout all of last year. And it was an issue against Ohio State where Texas probably lost about 25 or 30 yards of field position as the game accumulated. And that happened again on Saturday against San Jose State, where just rolling punts will add up to it. It has yet to fully reach that level of concern for special teams yet. But look, it's starting to see some of the same issues we saw a year ago. The lone bright spot, I'll say, was, hey, get the kicker a kick, and he made it, right? Mason Shipley, a 47-yarder. It looked good. I know Texas would probably like to have converted that to a touchdown, but you're going to need a kicker to kick a kick at some point this year, and to see one go through the hoop at this point of the season, certainly encouraging. But yeah, return game, nothing exciting, and the blocked punt is one where you roll the dice, but you got to be smarter, right? You're fielding that punt on the plus 45. You talk about field position and turning the game around. That's field position. That's turning the game around.
No doubt. Well, and I know our buddy Jerry Hamilton did appreciate that field goal being made from the right hash, Mason Shipley's first made field goal in a Longhorn jersey. So we got that to focus on. Look, obviously a lot to work on as Texas builds towards the game 3 next week against UTEP, and we'll see what strides are made. Coach Shipley, CJ, thank y'all for the knowledge and expertise as always. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes for producing it. Thank you to the entire On Texas Football staff. If you're not a member, over at ontexasfootball.com, get over to the site right now. Sign up using the promo code OTFOG. That'll get you 1 year of access for $39.95. Make sure you like this video and that you're subscribed to the On Texas Football YouTube channel. That way you're not missing anything on the channel or on the site before, during, and after every Texas game this football season. For Coach, for CJ, for Matthew, for the entire On Texas Football staff, and for Chad Markham and Allegiant Digital Marketing, I'm Jeff Howe. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and until next time, welcome.